Let's talk about healthcare dashboards. You know, they promise this incredible revolution, crystal clear, data-driven insights that are supposed to improve patient care, streamline operations, and help us make smarter decisions on the fly. And honestly, the idea is brilliant. But the reality? Yeah, it's often not so brilliant. So let's get into why that is.
See, you've got this dream of a beautiful, responsive tool that serves up critical information right when you need it. But then there's the reality, what so many organizations actually end up with. It's like a digital ghost town, a data graveyard where all these well-intentioned dashboards go to be ignored, unused, and, worst of all, untrusted. So how do we get from that exciting promise to this frustrating reality?
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down in this explainer. First, we'll dig into the dilemma itself. Then, we'll look at the invisible technical hurdles and the human factors that so often get overlooked. And then we'll get to the good stuff, a clear blueprint for success and a list of key pitfalls you absolutely have to avoid.
Okay, first up, the technical challenges. I want you to think of these as the hidden cracks in the foundation of your house. If you don't get this part right from the very beginning, it doesn't matter how fancy the design is on top, the whole thing is going to be unstable. And the first major crack is something called interoperability. Look, most healthcare organizations are juggling dozens of different IT systems that just plain don't talk to each other. This creates what we call data silos, where really important information is trapped. You can't possibly build a single, clear picture if all your data is locked away in separate rooms.
Thankfully, we have a solution that's really starting to bridge these gaps. Standards like FHIR, which stands for Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources, are designed to solve this exact problem. The best way to think about it is like a universal translator for all that healthcare data. It creates a common, secure language so that lab results from one system can be understood perfectly by the electronic health record in another. It's literally the key to unlocking those data silos.
But, even if all your systems are speaking the same language, there is one rule that is more important than anything else. It's so fundamental that if you ignore it, you are pretty much guaranteeing failure. And it all comes down to this one simple, unavoidable truth. Garbage in, garbage out. It's that simple. If your source data is a mess, full of missing values, inconsistent codes, or just plain wrong information, your dashboard will just be a beautiful lie. This is why data quality is not a feature. It is the absolute, non-negotiable foundation of everything. And beyond that, there are a couple more technical hurdles that can easily trip you up. Performance is huge. Nobody's going to use a slow, lagging dashboard that takes forever to load. They'll just give up. And security? Well, that's paramount. We are talking about incredibly sensitive patient data here, so complying with regulations like HIPAA in the US or GDPR in Europe, which are there to protect patient privacy, is not a suggestion, it is a must.
Okay, so let's just imagine you've solved every single technical problem. Your foundation is rock solid. You're a technical genius. Well, you're still only halfway there, because now we have to talk about the most complex, most unpredictable variable in this whole equation: people.
So why don't users actually use these things? It's pretty simple, really. A lot of the time, the dashboard just isn't relevant to their actual job, or it's too difficult to use. Or, and this is a big one, it completely disrupts their workflow because it's some separate tool they have to remember to check. Without good training or a clear reason why they should bother, adoption is always going to fail. And you hear this kind of thing directly from clinical staff all the time. They'll look at a dashboard and say, "These numbers are crude. They don't capture the complexity of my patient." And you know what? That's not just them being resistant to change. It's a totally valid concern that the metrics might be oversimplifying a very complicated reality. Building trust with these users is absolutely critical.
Now, let's be real for a minute. Building and implementing these systems costs a ton of time and money. We're talking about resources that a lot of healthcare organizations are already stretched incredibly thin on. It's a huge barrier. And you can see why a lot of projects just stall out right here. But the good news is, it's not an impossible wall to climb.
There are really smart ways to do this. Organizations can use open source tools to keep software costs down. They can leverage the cloud to avoid paying for huge, expensive hardware up front. And maybe most importantly, they can start small. Build a dashboard with a very limited, very focused purpose, prove that it has value, and then expand from there. Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on the problems. Now let's pivot to the solution. Based on a lot of real-world experience, the good and the bad, here is a 6-part blueprint for actually getting this right.
All right, here's the playbook. First, you have to start with a crystal clear purpose and just relentlessly focus on what the user actually needs. Second, embrace simplicity. Less is truly more. A cluttered dashboard is an ignored dashboard. Third, and I know I sound like a broken record, but make data quality a prerequisite, not an afterthought. Fourth, integrate the dashboard right into their existing workflows. Don't make people go somewhere else to find it. Fifth, you have to invest in change management. This is about helping people adapt, not just dropping software on them. And finally, number 6, treat this as a living, breathing product that evolves, not a one-and-done project.
To round this all out, let's look at this from the other side. What are the common traps that people fall into time and time again, and how can you sidestep them? Think of this as your practical checklist of what not to do. So let's talk traps, starting with the planning phase. First is the undefined purpose. This is the classic solution looking for a problem, a huge mistake. Next, too many metrics. It's so tempting to just throw every piece of data you have onto one screen, but all that does is create noise and paralyze people. Then poor data quality. We've hit this one hard, but it will kill user trust from day one. And finally, a lack of integration. If your dashboard is a separate island that people have to remember to paddle out to, they just won't go. It has to be part of their daily continent.
And the pitfalls keep coming right into implementation. Insufficient training is a huge one. You can't just hand people a powerful new tool and expect them to figure it out. Then there's what I call absent change management. This is when you focus only on the technology and completely forget about the people and the processes that have to adapt around it. It is a recipe for disaster. Watch out for overcomplexity too. Starting with super sophisticated analytics before you've even mastered the basics is just going to confuse everyone. And lastly, security oversights. One single mistake here can have absolutely devastating consequences for patients and for the entire organization.
So, if there is one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this simple but really profound truth. Success is ultimately about people and process, not just technology. The tech is just the tool. How you build it, and more importantly, how you help people use it, that is everything.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. Is the dashboard you're building, or maybe the one you're using right now, a true window that provides clear, actionable insight? Or is it just a really polished mirror, reflecting the same old data problems you started with?